Are we any clearer to knowing what exactly happened here?
Well, some of the details about this, Colette, are still being contested, and there's some contradictory local reports emanating from Lebanon. But what was the case is that 8 members of the Irish Defence Forces were on this mission effectively to grant a humanitarian leave to 2 members out of that 8. They are ordinarily based in the southern part of Lebanon, close to the Israeli border. And they were travelling back to Beirut to allow 2 members of the party of 8 return to Ireland on temporary compassionate grounds. That is because those 2 members of the Defence Forces were due to attend a funeral in Ireland of a common related family member. And what was the case was that there are 2 vehicles which were carrying these 8 personnel on their way back to Beirut appears to have travelled into an area which is not under the direct control of the Lebanese government, but rather which is largely under the control of the Hezbollah movement. Now, Hezbollah has released a statement today to say that it had nothing to do with what followed, but what appears to have been the case is that the presence of 2 UN vehicles and the personnel inside was effectively received as an unwanted development by members on the ground in that area, and they therefore then set on those 2 vehicles. One of the vehicles was able to escape to safety, the other unfortunately not. It was attacked. The government has described it as light arms fire, but it was effectively set on by what the government has characterised as a hostile mob. 2 members of the Defence Forces that were in that vehicle were able to escape with minor injuries. Trooper Shane Kearney from County Cork, he is 22 years old, has undergone surgery for significant injuries. He is described as being in a critical but stable condition in Lebanon today. Unfortunately, 23-year-old Private Seán Rooney from County Donegal unfortunately died and was pronounced dead when he arrived at a local medical facility. Tributes have been paid this lunchtime by Lieutenant General Sean Clancy, who is the Chief of Staff of the Defence Forces.
It's a dark day for Óglaigh na hÉireann when we have to mourn the loss of one of our colleagues and one of our friends. When somebody dies in service, it's felt throughout the whole organisation, and it deeply wounds the organisation. It's too early to establish fully what has happened during this tragic incident. But we will work hard, we will investigate and establish the facts as we know them, because we owe this duty to our colleague and friend, in particular Sean Rooney.
Now, there have, of course, been widespread tributes to Sean Rooney and wishing well wishes to other members of that convoy who were involved in this attack in Lebanon, which occurred around about after 9 o'clock Irish time last night. There is a statement this morning from Michael D. Higgins, who not alone as being President of Ireland is also the Supreme Commander of the Defence Forces, and he said in that role that it was with a heavy heart and conscious of the great loss that it will represent to them that he offered his deepest condolences to the family, colleagues and friends of the member of the Defence Forces who has lost their life. Described that as a life lost serving the people of Ireland, serving the United Nations and serving all those wishing for peace in our shared world. Tributes also paid today by An Taoiseach Micheál Martin. He is in Brussels attending a meeting of the European Council. On arrival at that meeting, he said that the loss of Private Rooney was a reminder of some of the risks that Irish peacekeepers face around the world.
It is a reminder to us of the extraordinary sacrifice that our peacekeepers make on a constant basis. They operate in at times hostile and very difficult and dangerous environments, and we should always be conscious of that. I was in Lebanon myself in May, would have met with many of our soldiers there. We work with the Polish soldiers in the battalion. Our deepest sympathies.
Now, those comments from An Taoiseach Micheál Martin have been reflected in the Dáil chamber, where business was momentarily suspended a little while ago so that the leaders of all the various political parties could offer their tributes to Private Rooney and to the other members of that convoy who were affected in this incident last night. Lieutenant General Sean Clancy, when we spoke to him a little while ago, said that there was nothing untoward or out of the ordinary about the route or the general operation to return these 2 members of the Defence Forces to the airport from where they were due to travel home. These 2 members of the Defence Forces had only been sent out on deployment to Lebanon in mid-November. Simon Coveney, the current Defence Minister, is in New York for a meeting of the UN Security Council. He says he will meet with the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, later today, seeking an investigation to do exactly what has occurred. Private Rooney is the 48th member of the Defence Forces to die on service in Lebanon. He will be the 88th name inscribed in the Irish Defence Forces Roll of Honour.
Right, Gavin, thank you for all of that.